you feel this?
We're live. Welcome to episode 8.
Grizzled Veterans.
Of Grizzled Veterans.
8.
We're back.
Greetings, Intertrons.
I am back after my horrible showing last couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Episode 7. I was sick. I was malnutrition. I had STDs. No, I didn't have STDs.
But he's full of vigor now.
I'm full of vinegar.
Vinegar and vigor.
And vigor.
And he's literally
I
full
took
of
dog
vigor.
tags off so I don't sound like a dog. Got the chair close to the mic. Okay, let's go. Ready to go.
So,
Donovan, how you been?
I'm all right, man.
Yeah.
Getting through. On a personal note, I'll just mention that I was supposed to go see Duran Duran tomorrow night. Unfortunately, that show got canceled.
Can you sing? What's your favorite song from Duran Duran?
View to a Kill, maybe?
There, sing like a line that someone may know from the chorus. Come on, just sing it. Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, right. As crystal tears falling snowflakes
Crystal tears,
on
that's like
your
Final
body. First time in years.
First time
to
in
drench your
years.
skin. Love is Rosie's tame.
There we go.
All right, so you got me to sing.
There we go. Everyone, don't throw up. If you do have to, go pause it and then come back.
Don't come running for autographs either. I'm semi-retired.
That's hilarious. So yeah, I'm surprised we have so much to talk about in gaming right now, but we do.
We do.
It is the 25th birthday of
Shoryuken!
Donovan's crazy. Yes, 25th anniversary, two of our most favorite franchises, which is huge.
Yeah.
Like, with the speed at which technology moves these days, it's amazing that a video game franchise can stay around, have the longevity and the pull that Street Fighter does,
Well,
which is
a
the
lot.
first of ones we're going to talk about.
Sure, and I mean, like...
And I believe that's today. Street Fighter's 25th
It is
anniversary
actually
is today. Right
So,
now.
This minute.
Living.
So, I gotta say, I don't know about you, but I played Street Fighter 1 in the arcade. I'm pretty sure you did too.
I did briefly.
Yeah.
I was very young.
I remember falling in love with that game from like the first time I played it.
Much more difficult to play
Oh,
back then.
sure. I mean,
The controls were not optimized.
No.
Throwing a simple fireball was an exercise of futility sometimes. And I think it took off about half life in Street Fighter 1.
a third or a half.
Something like that.
Uppercut took like half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy. But again, trying to get the execution was like next to impossible.
But Street Fighter personally has had a huge pull. You've heard us talk about Street Fighter.
You guys
tons.
know we're big fighting fans. And
You know the Grizzled Veterans love them some Street Fighter.
Ah, yeah.
But huge part of my gaming life. And like, I played competitive sports. It was the nearest thing I probably could have found in a video game to something competitive that I loved.
Well, I mean, honestly, and now with the way that we've got like Shoryuken.com and all the stuff on there, this is my sport now. I don't watch hockey, I don't watch football, any of that stuff. When I want to watch competitive sports, I watch competitive fighting.
And it's nice to fighting games have crawled and scrapped their way to what we have now, and they're bigger than ever in many ways. It's tough. We have a lot of young listeners out there, but they don't quite remember of how popular Street Fighter 2 was when it came out, and then was subsequently ported to Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis.
Yep.
Street Fighter 2 was huge.
Absolutely.
Huge. And there was no internet. There was no streaming games live, accessible pros to watch every other night on Twitch TV.
Yeah.
Online strategies to get better. All you had was an arcade cabinet, and then the subsequent ports.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Maybe Nintendo
It was the
Power
Dark
had
Ages.
something.
The Dark Ages of competitive video games.
Electronic Gaming Monthly might have put something in their tips and tricks or something like that. But again, like...
This side of the border, us two are probably the biggest staunch supporters of the fighting game, and more specifically Street Fighter, Capcom fighting games. And I'm anxious to see where they take the franchise from here.
Me too. I mean, I don't expect to hear anything about Street Fighter V for a little while yet.
No, because If any
Next
indication
console.
between Street Fighter 2, 3, and now 4,
Yeah.
it could be a while. But with the resurgence we've seen in the franchise and the cast of characters, and I just think fighting games offer so much replayability
Oh,
and
absolutely.
infinite depth, more than you can get from almost any other game out
Well,
there.
we've talked about this before about how, like every time you fight a new opponent online, you don't really, I mean, if you know the character they're playing, you can kind of guess what they might try to do, but again, it's always something new.
It's always something new. People play different characters different.
Yep.
I love it. But moving on to, will we see Street Fighter 5 soon?
I don't know about soon, but I kind of feel like we were not going to see Street Fighter 5 till the next console generation.
Oh, I've no doubt of that.
Yeah.
But Street Fighter's never been, as a franchise, has been dictated by consoles. It's an arcade first
Sure.
series, but with consoles being so much the driving force behind everything, and arcades dying, that may change. But if the track record is anything to tell, we won't see Street Fighter 5 for a while. But I think that's going to be different because Capcom wants to capitalize on what they've made.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know, of course, it's going to be shorter time than it was since 3 and 4 because, well, that was during the time when fighting games,
Well,
kind of...
three killed Street Fighter in many different ways. Unfortunately, it wasn't. 3
is probably the least accessible Street Fighter.
Let me start again. 3 is what's blamed for burying Street Fighter, but Capcom themselves buried Street Fighter by releasing rehash after rehash of Street Fighter 2,
Yeah. Well,
Turbo, Championship Edition, Super Turbo. All these things ran the name into the ground where people owed so many of these things. By the time 3 came out, they were somewhat sick of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And it was such a departure from what they knew with the characters that people didn't latch onto it quick. Even though the hand-drawn sprites and the animations were so far above what were available at the time, the game for the time was gorgeous. The pairing system, I don't think Street Fighter gets enough credit for the gameplay innovations they've introduced to fighting games across the years.
It's interesting you say that because like almost every game has pretty much copied Street Fighter. I mean, EX
Super moves, Street
Super
Fighter
moves, all that stuff. I mean, like even
pairing system, Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
Super moves, Street Fighter 2.
Well, even KOF 13 has EX moves now.
EX moves.
So
there you go, Street Fighter 3 as well.
Yep.
Now you got Ultras, and in Street Fighter 4 was the focus attacks is the main crux of the gameplay, which it seems it's a simple thing to say.
Yeah.
What a focus? Oh, it's focus attacks. They have such an integral part of what the game is about for every character and how you implement them that the depth is amazing. I just find fighting games fascinating. I think in the next 2 years we'll get a Street Fighter 5 announcement, if not before.
Hopefully.
Street Fighter 4 is what now? Almost 4 years old.
Oh, well, it's 4 years old. Yeah.
And it's seen another 2 more disc releases since the original Street Fighter 5.
Right. I guess it'll be 4 years in like this holiday season. Right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
Was
We'll
it
have to look it up.
2009?
I don't want to vouch for that, but I know it was 09.
It was 09. Okay.
But Anxious, I'm going to actually write a blog about my pitch for the Street Fighter 5 storyline. I've thought about it a lot, and who knows? Fighting game stories aren't exactly the most popular things, but why shouldn't they be? Because when you play a fighting game, you take one character.
Yeah.
Okay? That's your whole representation of who you are. You don't have a story to trout through. It is. It's your avatar. So why shouldn't you have a backstory to make you want to be this character more and more? I think they should take a bigger part, and I think the Street Fighter universe has such a steep lore that is somewhat jumbled around, but I think there's so many different places you can take it.
Well, like BlazBlue tried it.
They tried, and that's this game that has no history.
Yeah.
And they're trying to build a lore.
Yeah. And I mean, like I played the story mode in BlazBlue pretty excessively for a while. And I wanted to clear it on every character, but then the next version came out.
But imagine that in a Street Fighter game, which you have so much more invested in.
Right.
You know Ryu, you know Ken, you know Akuma, Bison, Sagat, Guile, Chun-Li. These characters should have a fleshed out story. They should have meaningful relationships with each other, and that should translate to the versus aspect. Like when Guile faces Chun-Li, they shouldn't act like strangers.
Right.
You know, there's a they've done that in the
Some kind of
past where
camaraderie
Ryu
or-
can pound fists.
Sure, yeah.
There's special intros, but that should carry all these characters have some sort of relationship with each other.
At this point, especially.
And how cool is that
Yeah.
when they have a specialized intro? Little things like that make you want to play certain characters versus certain characters. It builds it up.
adds character to the character.
That's right.
So-
But I'm very excited to see where Street Fighter goes, and I want to congratulate Capcom making the best fighting game in the world to me.
Yep, and here's to another 25.
Please, yeah. I
Please.
mean, fuck, we'll be old by then. But. Oh yeah. By the way, last episode wasn't swearing. That doesn't go for this one.
No swear jar this episode.
No.
So fuck
Feel
y'all.
good. So fuck you. But let's get on to the big and more recent news of Metal Gear Solid's 25th anniversary.
Right,
And,
so lots of big announcements.
Konami held a big, and more specifically the Metal Gear team, a big conference in Japan last night for us Eastern
Of
time
course,
zone
yes.
people, but I believe that was the 30th as well. And tweets were coming out before that there was going to be some earth-shattering announcements. Now, people took those words and ran with it. What's going to be earth-shattering?
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple announcements. The first of which was the movie,
Sure, yeah. Which is very
which
cool.
has been rumored for years.
Well, yeah, it was kind of DOA, and now it's back to life. So, hey, I'm game.
Mm-hmm.
It's by the sounds of it, they got Avi Arad doing production, so he's got a solid
and
resume.
who is he?
Well, he's produced pretty much every comic book movie you've ever seen, especially on the Marvel side. So yeah, anything from Spider-Man, Iron Man, all that stuff. He's been backed behind it.
Thor,
Avengers, all of that stuff. Now, there was a producer that died recently. It was a female, and I can't remember her name, but regardless.
So it's got the backing and the belief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are big names.
Yep.
Columbia Pictures is the big studio behind it.
Sony Columbia, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we're not going to get an Uwe Boll representation of Metal Gear Solid here. What direction do you think they go with the movie? It's just pure speculation.
Well, I mean, either they're going to go back in time to the very beginning, or else, I think, well, you kind of suggested to me earlier that they would do the Shadow Moses
that
story.
seems to me the most prevalent. They'd start with some sort of intro until Snake gets drawn into... But there again, the implications of the story... Shadow Moses was prevalent because he was being drawn back into the fray, the fighting. He had retired. He was racing Huskies in Alaska.
Sure.
And they brought him in through the cabin. So to make that as important as it was, there would have to be some sort of backstory prior to Shadow Moses. But I think the setting of Shadow Moses is so strong, and that's where... I don't think it goes without saying that.
Well,
I think Solid Snake will be the main protagonist.
What if the opening shot of the movie was Snake in Alaska with his Huskies?
Yeah, mushing along.
And then all of a sudden the chopper.
Get to the chopper!
The chopper comes out of the sky, and there's the Colonel.
Yeah.
And, come with me, buddy.
Like, one of the strongest parts of Metal Gear Solid, the game, was the intro. Optional intros you could watch that were the VHS. You could hear the tapes.
Sure, yeah.
The interrogation videos of Colonel Campbell and Naomi talking to Snake. He was sitting there basically naked, smoking cigarettes, and they were telling him why he was there, and he really had no choice but to participate.
Right.
It was very interesting, and that was really the dawn of Kojima's cinematic endeavors into Metal Gear. Love him or hate him, they're there.
Yeah.
And some would argue that Kojima's been making Metal Gear movies for a while now with Metal Gear Solid 4 and some of the cinemas that could carry... I mean, I think Metal Gear Solid 4 had a cutscene cinema that was 90 minutes long.
Yep, the ending cinema is well over an hour, right? So, I mean, yeah, I was talking to a buddy at work who's been, playing MGS 4 since the patch came out with the trophies, and I saw a comment on a forum yesterday or the day before that said somebody's already, platinumed it, and I'm like, holy crap.
Oh, I have no doubt. There's people out there that do amazing things with games.
Yeah.
If I sat down and put my mind to it, I could do it too, but I don't have the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's 7 playthroughs, right?
7, I think, was the minimum.
Wow.
So he's no doubt a big Metal Gear guy.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the cinemas must actually be longer than the actual gameplay in the game, because
I would imagine so.
You can beat...
But I feel a lot of people underestimate the Metal Gear Solid 4 gameplay. Introduced a lot of dynamic things. The camo system came in with Metal Gear Solid 3, but one of the biggest complaints after the fact was it was menu driven, where you have to go into a menu. It would, abrupt the gameplay, or interrupt the gameplay, and then you have to go back out, and all of a sudden you're in different clothes. Well, Metal Gear Solid 4 did the Octo camo,
Right.
which is very intuitive. It's incredible that, you know, every surface that you lean against or touch, or it changes.
Yeah.
It completely got away with the menu system, which would be interrupt gameplay,
Yep.
and allows you to continue with your stealth thing. I don't think it gets enough credit for the innovation.
I think what kind of scares people away sometimes from Metal Gear is the
cinemas.
well, no, and partially the complexity of the controls.
I understand.
And that's this is a one of the greatest things about Metal Gear, but also maybe something that intimidates some people because they do give you so much control
there
and
is
options.
a lot, and there's a lot of options.
I mean,
Metal Gear Solid 4 had the most amount of guns and control options there, and it's not an easy interface to pick up directly.
No. I mean, you got all the rolls you can do, and the CQC, and all that stuff.
And I guess it was a slow burn and learning curve through the other games, but to get a Metal Gear Solid 4. But we digress. Back to the movie. Now comes the inevitable question.
Casting.
Yeah.
Who plays Snake?
Like, with such a role... It's hard for me to view this movie... For years we've been talking about this.
Sure.
For years. I think out of all video games... Metal Gear seemed to be the one that would most adhere to the film medium. It would make the best movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people think so, but video game movies so often suck that a lot of people were wary about it.
Is the Metal Gear story too complicated, though?
At its essence, when you start, no.
Yeah.
It gets complicated.
Yeah.
Very complicated, but this is one movie. And you're not going to wrap up arguably 6 games.
Oh God, no.
Into actually 8 games, really. If you were down there,
Super Famicom?
Famicom.
There was no Metal
Well,
Gear.
what was? Yeah, that was the initial one. Because the version that Snake's Revenge. Well, what?
No,
No, I'm thinking.
You're thinking of the MSX.
MSX. Yes, I'm sorry.
all
Don't
good.
kill me, guys.
Hey, I caught him for you.
Like
so don't
noob comment. Yes, it was the MSX. I'm an idiot. Famicom. MSX. Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, but that was the initial. So 8 games from across all things. Glad we got that straight. Thank you. That's why I knew you were here for something.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. But there's no way they're fitting 8 games of lore into one movie.
Absolutely not.
It's just picking a starting point. Let's just assume Metal Gear Solid 1 is the starting point, okay? Who would you think would play the best Snake? It's going to be hard to match that voice.
Well,
and you cannot dub that voice.
It's not just the voice either. I mean, it's But
Snake,
you've got to be physical.
Absolutely.
Grizzled.
Grizzled. A grizzled veteran. Snake is by the time Metal Gear Solid rolls around, he is a grizzled veteran.
Coming soon to a Grizzled Veterans near you is a soundbite you won't soon forget. Anyway, yeah, I mean,
off the top, you're like, who do you think could play Snake and hold up?
Wolverine.
You think Hugh Jackman?
Maybe. That's kind of one of the first ones that popped into my head.
It's not a bad choice, but I'm not the biggest fan of his Wolverine.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not.
He's got the look for it.
He does, but...
And he's a pretty decent actor.
I think Hugh Jackman's a good actor. So, I'm not going to sit there and question his acting chops, but I don't think he's the choice for a Solid Snake. It's so difficult.
I mean, you want to maybe go with a young action star, but I mean, like...
No, there's no one that could fit it. There's no one young.
Like Ryan Reynolds is too silly.
No, it's too clean cut.
Yeah.
He needs to be weather-beaten, a soldier that's raspy.
Yeah.
Experience comes through his voice.
Someone in his late 30s.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, mid to late 30s, right? Who's still got that physicality, but has also got the experience.
Mm-hmm. He's not going to come across green. He has to look in his prime, but he also has to look like...
All right, let's screw modern. Let's any era.
Any era?
Any era. Who could play Snake? 80s, 70s.
Jesus.
Anybody. Pick anybody. Like Harrison Ford?
No. Harrison Ford's action, he's not an athletic man. Honestly, in Indiana Jones, he's very cluttered. He's clumpy walking. He runs...
Clint
Clint in his young days, yes.
Yeah.
Clint in his young days could do it, but I mean that's completely out of the
Obviously.
But Clint's voice, Snake's voice is the iconic thing. Obviously his look and his bandana, the gray, the military thing. But what does everyone associate with Snake? It's that voice, David Hayter's voice.
Yeah.
Someone has to capture it without look like they're trying too hard. And that's the most
like David Hayter's not going to play him in a movie.
No, he can't.
Right?
He doesn't. I would hope they would give him a cameo in the movie. He's very well deserving.
Sure. Man,
like you just hear him, kept you waiting, huh?
That's awesome.
Otacon, Snake.
Oh shit.
I just got goosebumps on my back thinking about the possibilities of Revolver Ocelot coming. Like Clint could play Revolver Ocelot.
There you go.
Revolver Ocelot to me is such an amazing character. I love him. Just the whole 6-shooter thing. 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves.
Someone's played a little bit of Metal Gear.
Way too much, yeah. And just the gunplay and shit. Yeah. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Casting. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this.
I got to pick somebody now. I don't think it would translate. One of my favorite actors right now is Tom Hardy.
Okay.
I don't know how it would fit.
Yeah.
But I know he'd be equal to the task. He's physical enough.
Yeah.
He would have to. He's very clean shaven.
Yeah.
He'd have to get a little bit of makeup going to make him look more grizzled.
Sure. I mean, Jeremy Renner, he's the it boy right now.
I
don't know.
He's too short. I'm not a big Jeremy Renner fan, actually.
Oh,
no? No. I think he's okay in certain movies, but I think he's overrated.
I think he's getting overexposed right now.
Much too. And he's not... He carries on like the Tom Cruise, Sly Stallone. Like, they're super short. Like, he's like 5'9". No.
Oh.
Anyway, Tom Hardy maybe, but he doesn't really look the part, so who knows?
Yeah.
He's just one of my favorite actors.
Sure.
Who knows where they're going to go, but the other huge announcement was Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. Zeroes, yeah. I don't know, zeros. Is
that going to have anything to do with Major Zero?
I don't know. I was hoping for a Metal Gear Solid 5 announcement, but from all accounts, it's incredible. It shows off.
Well, I mean, hey, now I'm kind of just having a flashback to that initial announcement from when Kojima had their job postings.
Okay.
And it's like, Big Boss wants you or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people speculated that was for MGS 5. Now I'm wondering if that was for this Ground Zero.
Well, it has to be, because you look at the initial footage, which...
I haven't seen the footage yet.
Well, no, there is no official release of footage. The still pictures that show... It is Big Boss.
Yeah. There's an eye patch.
There's the eye patch, and it's the Les Seuls Frontières patch from Peace Walker. There, and it's going to be an open world game, from all accounts. Whatever the hell that means in the Metal Gear universe, I don't know. But it's open world.
I read something about like when you get into like sticky situations, you can call for a helicopter to get evapped out of that. Kind of thing.
I don't know. There's infinite possibilities with it.
Because not like in
I don't really want to play a Grand Theft Auto game in my Metal Gear, but I'm not going to sit here and criticize where they're going, because in a lot of ways Kojima's never let me down.
No, I got a lot of faith in that guy, so I mean...
And it's running on the new Fox engine, which has been years in the making.
Yeah.
Which looked... I mean, every person in attendance, by all accounts on Twitter, their jaws hit the floor.
Yeah. Well, the still that they showed with Big Boss
was pretty incredible,
and that's in game, right? So I mean, yeah, that looked pretty awesome.
The water, the
drops hitting his shoulder,
and the thing is, you can't appreciate graphics until they're in motion.
Right?
And it's amazing that we're speaking about a still picture.
Which, God, it's been like since magazine era that we were doing that.
Yeah, it's tough with the Metal Gear Solid franchise now, because
do you
think we'll ever see a Metal Gear Solid 5?
I don't see
official
why not.
Metal Gear Solid 5 number.
Did they not say that?
No. And
not in this
a lot
thing,
of people think
like,
this is what it's going to be eventually, but until I see this is Metal Gear Solid 5, it's not Metal Gear Solid 5 to me. A lot of people would like to call Peace Walker Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Did that come out before 4 or after?
After.
So a lot of people would call Peace Walker 5, but it's not. It's called Peace Walker. So until I see that number, you don't know. But I'm just happy there is a little bit more Metal Gear and Big Boss. If they made a Metal Gear Solid 5, I would have loved to play as the boss. She's such a strong female character that I love. I think her character, I think she's the best female character I've ever witnessed in a video game. The strongest, without flaunting those female sensibilities that a lot of times female characters fall into doing.
Right, yeah.
Or created to do.
Well, sure, she was like...
But storing Norman...
She was not sexualized at all.
No, but she was strong. She was on par and above almost every other character in that game. But storming Normandy in World War II with her would be such iconic. Forming the Cobras.
Yeah. Meeting
Jack, who would eventually become Big Boss. And
right.
all these other things. I think they can make that game. But I think that's where you go from there on in the franchise. It's going to be almost impossible to carry on from Metal Gear Solid 4 into a new game past that, even though Revengeance is doing that. But who knows if it's going to be canon, or is it going to be a side story?
I still kind of am going with side story on that one.
I think so too. Who knows who's going to show up?
I don't have a problem with that.
If anybody.
I really don't have a problem with that.
I guess I don't either. I'm going to wait and see with that game.
Because it's its own... I'm considering its own thing, even though it takes place...
But Raiden's so deeply entrenched in the current... thing, it's hard to... You can't just sit there and play the game and say, oh, none of this happened, and he's just doing his own thing. Like,
right.
Who knows? But I'm very excited. I think it's awesome.
Before we wrap up this 25 years thing, I had something that popped into my head. A couple of years ago, we saw Capcom release a couple of... they gave rebirth to a couple old franchises. They did the Commando, Wolf of the Battlefield, and they did the 1943 game or whatever it was in HD. Now, they haven't done anything like that since. Are there any games, like old franchises...
Capcom stable?
Well, I'm not just saying from Capcom, but are there any franchises from...
Well, I think we should stick with these two.
No, but I'm just... Is there anything that you'd like to see come back that deserves a,
Well, I'm not going to deviate from either of these two companies in terms of these two. Capcom, I'd like to see a revival of the Rival Schools fighting.
Okay.
I love that series of games, and I think it was very niche, but the people... are extremely devoted to it. And another one, Power Stone. I think Power Stone was awesome.
Okay. Now it's funny because I'm going to pick a Capcom game as well. Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a new
Ghosts but however they take it, it was so successful side-scrolling.
I don't want it. I want it to be a side-scroller. I don't want it to be some 3D game or something
but it's
like
going to be a PSN XBLA release.
I don't mind that. Make it like they did with Bionic Commando and like.
But Bionic Commando wasn't very good.
I played the Rearmed.
I didn't like it very much.
I really
Rearmed.
I thought Rearmed was great.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Cool. I didn't think it was awful.
And the music in that game was.
I didn't think it was awful. And Capcom obviously thought it was substantial enough. They put Spencer, the Bionic Commando, the revamped version in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
Let's talk about on the Konami side. I'd like to see Snatchers.
Yep. We would both like to see.
I would have said Zone of the Enders, but I know that's coming.
Yeah. And my other pick is Strider.
Oh fuck yeah! Yeah, see, there's so many. Strider's so good.
Yeah,
dude, it's so good. Like that would imagine it would translate so well.
Yeah.
In today's action adventure sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And upgrade the laser sword and have your dog, your eagle.
Yeah.
That's or the panther or whatever. Oh, that would be so good.
I know.
Oh, that would be so good. Now you got my brain moving.
All right.
Well, before we could probably talk about for an hour.
Oh God, we could do a Metal Gear episode, and we could do a
but let's
HD
move on from there.
episode.
Needs to say we're very excited about Konami's announcements, and PAX is this weekend.
Yep.
PAX East. Maybe they'll have. I know Kojima's going to be there.
He's doing.
Maybe
they'll
have some footage.
Well, Game Trailers is teaming up with Kojima to do some stuff, so there's probably going to be some video. Over
we'll
the
have more to talk about. Next episode about it.
Sure thing.
Stay tuned for news.
So PAX, lots of exciting stuff going to come out of PAX, I'm sure.
In other recent news, I know Grand Theft Auto is our favorite franchise.
They released some new screenshots.
They're incredible games. People love them. Grand Theft Auto 5 released some new screenshots. They do anything for you?
Vehicles?
Yeah, like, wow, they have cars. I don't know.
Like it wasn't going to have cars?
Yeah.
You know what? To all the Grand Theft Auto fans out there,
I'm not ripping on it because the game is a monster.
It's just not my cup of tea.
It's not that it's not my cup of tea. I've fallen in love with the open world games. Maybe it's because I don't have enough time anymore, like Red Dead. But
the only Rockstar game I own.
I played Grand Theft Auto 3, the initial one, and to a lesser extent Vice City.
Okay.
So much and did almost everything there was to do that, the allure of doing everything was lost on me.
Yeah.
And when you're only playing those games for mission and story and they lose some of the appeal.
Okay.
For me, that's just what it is, because I look at those games, people think the open world and you can do everything is so appealing, but you know what? They don't do one thing excellent.
No.
They don't have great shooting mechanics. They don't have good driving mechanics. They don't
Although, apparently Sleeping Dogs is...
yeah, it's got rave reviews.
Yeah.
Everyone that plays it, some of them are saying it's like the leader for Game of the Year right now, which is incredible. I can't say anything. I haven't played it.
No, but from what I've seen, like review-wise and what people are talking about it, apparently they do a good job on the driving, and they do a really good job of the fighting.
Yeah, that's been my biggest complaint about open world games, because the mechanics of the game are not incredible.
Right.
So once you get past the allure of I can do anything and this world's huge.
Yeah.
Now I have to do something, and it's not as good as the comparable genre would do.
Right.
So, like, the shooting mechanics aren't going to be as good as, say, Call of Duty or any other first-person shooter out of there. The driving's not going to be good as Need for Speed. So, whatever. That's just where I'm at. I'm not ripping on the game because it's a monster. It'll sell probably 7 million copies.
Right.
Maybe more. And people love it. Who knows? I may buy it.
I might, but I'd never bought GTA 4. I ended up...
I bought it used and played it for a bit, but I didn't fall in love with it.
Well, I got Red Dead Redemption, and to me it's...
Red Dead Redemption, I think, is Rockstar outdid every Grand Theft Auto game. And they perfected the formula in a Wild West thing.
I really enjoy that game, and I haven't quite finished it.
It's incredible.
Yet. I'm still a little ways off, but when I play it, I get sucked right in. So. And
it's easy to lose hours. It's like an MMO almost. Hours and you don't do anything.
I just skinned 200 animals or something.
Yeah. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5, when do you think it's going to be released? Next year?
Spring?
Summer?
Spring or summer?
I don't think it's going to be spring.
Probably not.
I think summer. Because the thing is, they don't have to adhere to like the fall, where so many games count on the winter season. Grand Theft Auto will sell at any point.
Yeah. So, you know what? They may clean up the summer by releasing it then.
I think so. It's a dull period.
Did they not release GTA 4 in the summer?
I have no clue.
I remember when the billboards were up in Toronto and stuff.
They
had giant billboards.
With Niko Bellic.
Yes.
But, I'll look forward to news for that. I'm keeping my eyes open for it.
Right.
I'm not writing it off. But they'll have to show me more screenshots for me to get back into it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some recent releases. And not just retail games, so to speak, but things I've been playing. Donovan, you want to go first? You recently finished Transformers.
I actually just beat it today before we did the podcast. And you know what? It's no big secret. I'm a huge Transformers fan.
I'm not as big a fan as you now, but my love for the entire thing of Transformers is still there.
Yeah.
Don't love the movies, but I still think the cartoons of yesteryear are very watchable.
Yeah.
And have great stories.
You've seen the original movie from '86, right?
I own it. It's amazing. I've watched it probably 20 times.
I've probably seen it 50 times.
Yeah.
Anyway, the game itself is pretty good. A lot of sites are giving it like 8.5s and stuff like that, but unfortunately there are a few things about it that I didn't like, so I'm gonna give it like a 7.5. My gripes with it are kind of minor, but I feel like it's got a really underwhelming soundtrack.
Okay.
And to me that's a big deal because music is a big deal to me.
It is, but like just to counter that, the average gamer wouldn't.
That's fine.
Unless the music's just awful and like polka.
Yeah.
But I understand it's important to you because Transformers did have cool music through it.
Well, to me, it had a very generic, sort of this blockbuster Hollywood kind of soundtrack that we're hearing in a lot of games now. And it's just, it's forgettable. I can't think of a single melody that stands out aside from the title screen just because I've heard it like however many times, right?
Now get to the story. I didn't play the previous one. I know you did.
Yeah. I actually thought the story in the first one was better than the story in this new one.
Okay.
Because I felt like there was more story in the first one.
I know the single-player campaign was longer.
It was,
Now, they said they trimmed it on purpose to keep it more focused and to tell a
here's the
more
thing.
focused story.
The gameplay and the way they've designed the levels is still really fun.
Okay.
And like playing with all the different characters is really cool, and I really enjoyed that. And I even got to play as a couple characters that I wasn't expecting to. That they kind of like in the middle of a chapter, something will happen,
Okay.
and you're all of a sudden playing as a different character. That was cool. But some of the voices in the game,
And Transformers, if anything, has some of the most iconic voice acting. Even when we were children, everyone remembered the Optimus Prime voice.
yeah,
And honestly, some of the reasons I didn't like the movies as much is because the Megatron voice was gone.
yep,
I like Hugo Weaving. He's Mr. Agent Smith from The Matrix.
sure.
But he did not... That's not Megatron to me.
And you know what's
His
funny?
His voice is different.
Frank Welker auditioned for Megatron, and they didn't cast him.
That pisses me off.
Yeah.
Starscream needs to have his own voice.
Yeah.
They did a decent job of Starscreams in the movie.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look like Starscream, nor does he sound like him really.
No.
He needs to have that whiny, pompous,
He kind of has that kind of voice in this one, but
In the game?
But the thing that
At least he looks the part in the game.
yeah, the thing that I kind of didn't like about some of the voices is that they sounded too human. And
Okay.
it wasn't even the delivery that wasn't good. It was just that they didn't seem to put some type of an effect.
They do.
On some
The
voices.
videos or the voices should not be human. They
No.
should have a robotic amplifier in
Yeah,
there.
and especially I found some of the Decepticons didn't sound like Decepticons. Particularly Onslaught, the leader of the Combaticons. He just did not sound like a robot at all, and I just didn't believe that it didn't suit what they were showing on the screen, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's a good game. It's not a 9.
Okay.
I know that some
No,
sites,
I don't think it's-
some
I-
sites have given it a 9, and
too-
I'm like, it's good, but
So-
you know what? We've played so many games. It takes a lot to blow me away
Mm-hmm.
now. I think that I'm a fairly decent critic when it comes to that kind of thing because we've played so much stuff.
So what would you give it?
I'm giving it a 7.5.
Which is not a bad score.
That's a good score. It's still worth playing.
Solid score.
For fans of Transformers, for fans of third-person shooters. I mean, it doesn't have your traditional cover system. It's more of like a duck.
No, I know, and you
behind
switch hands.
But you can switch hands, and that's a cool mechanic. Obviously, the transformation is
At
a
will.
major part of the game. And I actually found when I was playing a lot of the early part of the game, I wasn't transforming that much. And then later on in the game, I was doing it more often. And it had a lot to do with depending on what character you're
Yeah.
playing, what weapons you had. I mean, and you're upgrading as you go through the game and this kind of thing too.
But did the story have some really good moments?
They definitely had some good moments. They steal lines out of the old canon.
Of course.
So there's definitely a few moments where I like raised my fist in the air and
Sure.
was pumping and that kind of thing.
Now are you going to get into the multiplayer?
I am going to play the multiplayer.
Because I know
of
they
it.
put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, and I've already like sort of customized my characters, my first initial batch of characters. So
What is it? Team-based multiplayer?
there's team, like if you do like a team deathmatch, there's that. So your Autobots versus Decepticons. There's controlling points, and then there's like capture the flag. So it's a pretty
Okay, there's
Standard.
different modes. That's
pretty
good.
standard. But I mean, because it's Autobots and Decepticons, you've got that dynamic
Sure.
in there, right? And of course the
You recreate
transformation.
your favorites and unlock different.
Well, you earn
Midsections
You
and
earn
heads
money and
and-
buy
yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh, really? I got to buy everything, but whatever.
You know that's the way it's gonna go.
Of course, of course.
So 7.5 from Donovan, the Transformers expert.
I would consider myself a pretty...
I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna borrow it off you and play it.
Yep.
I will.
You're going to let me borrow Asura's.
Asura's Wrath. Yeah,
Yes.
you'll like it.
I know I
I
will.
think it's very cool.
So you want to talk about The Walking Dead?
Yeah, I just I'm almost finished. Episode 3 just came out of a planned 5-part from Telltale, The Walking Dead. Now they're point and click based games. Anyone that hasn't tried them, you're probably familiar with them, whatever. But everyone's familiar with the show. It's like a hit show. I don't love the show. I thought season 2 was awful. They say it's like so character development based, but I don't see really any characters developing. They're still just as stupid as they were from the first season for the most part. But anyway, I digress because the show or the game takes the best parts from the show and makes them better. The drama between the players, I really can't give it enough credit for what it does. It's a lot of fun. It captures the zombie atmosphere really, really well.
Cool.
The characters are interesting. They change over the course.
Yep.
You build your own story. There's so many different branching paths of where it can go. You decide who lives and dies. Sometimes the decision you made before can end up impacting someone else's death.
Right.
And then you look back and you're like, God, why did I do that? And da-da-da-da. It's just...
So it gives you a reason to play it again.
Oh, for sure. There's different things you can do.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to go into specifics because I know you want to play it, but there was a recent decision I made in the third one that ended up impacting and thinned the people that were with me. And I didn't really even see the ramifications of my choice. And now I'm like, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that. But the game continues.
Right.
It's not like it ends.
Right.
And I'm almost at the end of episode 3. I didn't quite have enough time to finish it. But I've ran into another new character. And we're continuing on. And it's just, I think it's a really fun ride that anyone who's into Walking Dead or point-click based adventures or like horror-based games as well. I wouldn't say it's scary, but there's some genuinely really good parts that you're like, oh my God, this is really cool.
It's well written.
It's really well written. I can't recommend it more.
So good voice acting.
Excellent.
And I mean, I've seen pictures of it. It looks cool. It's got a very it's got that hand-drawn style. So yeah, it looks cool. I definitely want to check it out. The character building, they will refer to things that you did in, let's say, the first episode in like the second and third. Nice.
Like if you neglected them during a certain decision, let me say, oh, you weren't there for me when this and this happened.
Yeah.
Da da da, and they remembered that shit. And you got to build their trust back up. It's very cool.
That's cool.
And I none of the stories. It's not like it doesn't have any lulls. I'll just say that the story is. It moves you forward and you're compelled to do everything. It never seems like a chore.
Right. Cool.
Very good.
And these guys did the Back to the Future game as well, didn't they?
Yeah, but a lot of people, they started off really strong with the Back to the Future ones, and then they say, I never played through them all, but the later episodes sort of fell apart.
Okay.
And that could have been because maybe they got the Walking Dead one and wanted to get to work on that.
Sure.
Who knows? But everyone's hoping that won't happen here, but I can't imagine it will. Like, it seems like every single one's gotten better.
Okay.
But it's not like the first one's the worst. It's still awesome.
Sure.
So
okay, well, you certainly got me interested.
Yeah,
so.
I recommend anyone get out there and play them. I just hope they pick up the release schedule because they're running behind. They said they were going to release one a month, and they started releasing that, I believe, in March.
Okay.
So we're in the end of August now, and episode 3 is just coming out.
Sure.
So who knows? Maybe they'll finish it by the end of the year, maybe not. I hope they do.
Well, and this actually brings up an interesting point because, like, to me, like, nobody likes to see a game get delayed. We've talked about this before. But again, most of the time it's for the better.
For a reason. They're delaying it for a reason.
I read a little thing about DOA 5. When they brought out DOA 4, they put a Spartan in the game from Halo as an unlockable character.
Okay.
And people were wondering if that was going to happen with the Xbox version for DOA 5. But apparently due to time constrictions, they can't do it. And it just got me thinking, well, then delay the game.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe they just don't want to do it.
Games don't get delayed as much as they used to.
I don't agree. I see more and more delays on major releases. I can't think of a major release that hasn't been delayed.
Really?
Name one. Resident Evil 6 was delayed. Oh, no, wait.
They bumped it up.
They actually bumped. Yeah, but I think that was after initial delay.
Are you? No. How could they bump up the date if they had an initial delay?
I think it was a September release. They postponed it to November and now have bumped it up to October.
No. It got announced for November and then they bumped it up to
Okay,
October.
well, bad example then. But every other, like you look at Dishonored, that was delayed. The reason there's such a clutter in 2013 is because so many of those games have been delayed.
I will admit, you're in a way. You're
Mass
right.
Effect 3
I can remember
delayed.
Really?
Huge, like 5 months.
Oh right, yeah, you're right. It was supposed to
November to March.
Right, yeah, but
and even then, they probably still should have delayed it further.
Yeah, but there has been quite a few things that get like a couple of weeks moved around here and there. I know, like All Stars Battle Royale, I got bumped a month.
Darksiders 2 was delayed 4 months.
Well, it probably should have got delayed 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shitty on that one.
But delays. I see so many delays, and I have no problem with them. I want a good game. I don't want a broken game, and I don't want one that's been skimped on at the end. I want a proper working game because there's so much out there to play these days.
Yeah. Did we talk about Final Fantasy at all yet?
No, but we'll get to that in just a second. I just finished also Mass Effect 3's recent DLC, Leviathan. That was released on Tuesday, and I have to say it's excellent. You'd be surprised to hear that from me after.
Yeah, actually,
Mass
I
Effect
thought you were
Sport
going to be
cast.
jaded enough to avoid it for a little
But
while.
I will say that, playing into that aspect, that many of the reveals and the information provided would have been much better served in the original campaign.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to you earlier. It plays into the ending in a lot of ways, sorry. And the information just would have been better served in the single player.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that from other sources too.
It needed to be there.
Yeah.
It explains quite a bit and also supports some of the things that were so sudden in the finale of Mass Effect 3.
Right, okay.
Without spoiling anything. Bottom line is the Leviathan, everyone knows by now that it's a derelict Reaper or of some sort of Reaper descent. It kills a Reaper.
Everybody does?
It says, no, but it says right in the description it's a Reaper killer. So you gotta... Listen, man, like
I'm
when
just
the patch,
giving you a hard time for the sake of giving you a hard time.
I don't want to spoil.
Because I haven't even played it yet.
I don't want to spoil
me.
shit, but everyone pretty much knows that if you paid attention to any news when they announced the Leviathan rumors, that the rumor that it was a Reaper that turned. Okay. Anyway, it has some really cool voicing. Like everyone loves the Harbinger voice.
Yeah.
Leviathan.
I heard one quote.
Yeah,
off
it's
the launch
it's cool.
trailer. No, I watched the launch trailer the other day.
Okay, well there you go. I mean, there.
I thought, whoa, this actually looks really good.
It is, and it's. Would I put it on par with one of the best DLCs of all time, Lair of the Shadow Broker from Mass Effect 2? I say it falls just a step short, but that doesn't mean it's not worthy of a purchase because I think it's very good.
Yeah.
It's the second best Mass Effect DLC I've ever seen and one of the best DLC packs I've played. But you're like, where do you... it's tough though for Mass Effect fans because the payoff, you already know the ending.
Right. It's funny to get this...
It is. It's getting it now. I just think that DLC, I would have been more apt to pay for it on launch day. That could have been a launch day DLC because it's an integral part of the story.
Well, Javik should have been included on the disc, and this could have been the day one DLC.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that plays into some of the deadlines they were trying to meet. I think the finale was rushed, but
we're not going to get into this again
right now. But upcoming is the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, we almost.
I guess it
forgot
plays
about
on the 25th anniversary press conference. But real quick.
Yeah, we can't talk too much about this now because we don't know that much about it.
No, but September 1st is the lightning event.
Right. So
And
I think we've already kind of predicted what we think this might be.
I think every major outlet believes it's going to be 13.3.
3. And
Which is... I don't know, how do you feel about that? People aren't happy about it.
I don't think I'm unhappy about it, but at the same time...
It's almost inevitable,
Can
though.
we get Versus 13 already? It's not dead. We know it's not dead.
Now, I don't know if I don't want to talk. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. I think they just saved it to save face. Versus 13. I think it was dead.
Maybe.
I think it was dead. Honestly, I do. But let's stay on topic with 13.3. No one's really wants 13.3. Although 13.2 was not a bad game. It was decent.
Yeah.
The story was okay. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Going to. But the ending, even with the Lightning DLC,
Still leaves you
Requiem of the
hanging.
Goddess, it's almost inevitable that it was going to be announced. But this is not what people want. And I really hope Square Enix realizes that. Like, they're just being... It seems stubborn now. Does it not? Does it seem like a not? I know they put so much effort in creating the Nova
Is that
Crystallis universe and the 13 engine.
Yeah.
They put a lot of effort into it. And 13 is marginally... It's successful, but it's very marginal. This is not what people want. What do you think? Like, what are they doing?
Well, I don't think it's just Square. I think stubbornness is actually part of Japanese culture.
But do you like making money, or do you just want to stick to your guns? Because they're not making a lot of money with
They're
these
probably
games.
looking at it from this way, and again, you see they put a lot of resources into the engine and all that kind of stuff. They probably like, well, we need to make some more money off this engine.
Yeah, but they could vary it. Carry it into Final Fantasy 15. Like, 13.3 is coming out. I think that's inevitable. It will be announced.
Yeah.
We're just speculating, sure, but I think it's a 99.9% guarantee that it's coming. And it's going to star Lightning, which the last one should have starred, because she was the prominent character on the goddamn cover. Just like she was on the original one. But I just think
I'm too biased, and I mean, I'm going to get it regardless.
I'll get it.
Yeah.
I'll get it too, because I enjoyed it, but do you not agree that they need to move on? Whereas the Final Fantasy
I don't
series
need
needs
you.
to
You don't need me to
progress.
tell you that. I mean, you already know. I mean,
Like, forget 14 and the MMO thing. Let's just pretend that's not happening. 15.
I want 15 and I want Versus 13, which, however, it's gonna.
If there ever was a AAA franchise that has buried theirself like an ostrich in the sand, it's Square, because this was a company that was at the top of the hill. That everything they did was anticipated. Now, no one cares. Fans care,
Yeah.
but the buzz that a new Final Fantasy creates is almost non-existent now.
Well, I mean, it's no big secret. 7 was the one that brought everyone.
And why do they keep cock teasing the fucking Final Fantasy 7 remake? Just if they don't want to do it and they keep making excuses for it,
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Stop telling me
But-
and giving me the excuses that, it'll take us 5 years and do all this money. And I'm like, just shut up then.
Yeah. But if you looked back at sales, I mean, I could be jumping off a cliff here, but how many copies of Final Fantasy 3 or 6, depending on how you want to call it, sold for the Super Nintendo, and how many copies of Final Fantasy 13 have sold? I'd be curious to find that out.
I guarantee you 6 outsold it.
But by how much, I wonder? Because the audience has changed.
I don't know, but you
That's
also
a long
gotta-
time, you know what I mean?
The game was more expensive, and also it wasn't multi-console. So it's, audience-wise, I bet you globally Final Fantasy 6 outsold 13.
No, well, that's probably...
But I think the numbers on 13 are skewed because people were so salivating, anticipating a new Final Fantasy, and the trailers did look good, that they would buy anything from Square. But then when they found out with the game, 13.2 didn't sell well. I know that for a fact. It didn't sell horrible.
No.
But compared to what those games cost,
I think it definitely sold better than 13.
I don't think it did, Donovan.
No?
No, I don't think it did. 13 actually sold well.
Initially. Because people scooped
That's
it up.
right, but the residual sales on it were not high.
I mean, I still enjoyed 13.
I
I think 13.2 is better.
I didn't enjoy 13.
But you've said you think 13.2 is a beautiful game, and I certainly don't disagree with you there.
I don't. You can't argue that.
I think that 13.1